Saturday's game between Alabama and Texas A&M was supposed to be a bloodletting for Bama, but as has become the custom, Jimbo and the Aggies had other ideas. Bama still got the win on the field, but it was bumpy. And off the field, the AP poll voters weren't convinced they were still the best in the nation. The Tide losing 14 first-place votes, falling out of top spot in the AP poll. Now, our Dennis Dodd had them off the top perch for a few weeks now, but he also pushed them to number 3 in his latest edition of the Power Rankings. Ohio State making that climb up to number 2 as the top 3 mirrors what you see in the AP. It is Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Bama 3. The rest of the top 7 for the Power Rankings unchanged, but UCLA making that leap into the upper echelon. They go to 8th. TCU also making a top 10 appearance. Dennis's full top 25 available over on CBSSports.com. Let's bring in Dennis to discuss those latest power rankings. Dennis, you mirror the AP poll and also have a tumble for Bama. So how slim are the margins right now between the top 3?
I think people have forgotten how good Ohio State is. We all got obsessed with Alabama and Georgia and judging them week to week. Georgia had its 2-week downturn against Kent State and Missouri. Alabama has struggled with Bryce Young out of there, and then they almost lose at Texas. I think I'm having a hard time not keeping Ohio State out of the number 1 spot. They've won 4 games now by a total of 150 points. They've won every game by double digits. CJ Stroud, we're almost getting used to it. It's almost become boring. He throws 6 more touchdown passes to tie his school record. He's got 24 on the season, so that's on a pace for 50 in a season? That's Dwayne Haskins territory at Ohio State. And they've won games without Travion Henderson out. They've had injuries on defense, and they're still blowing everybody out. So I think the discussion is how close are Georgia and Alabama. I think Ohio State's soaring right now, and that's why I dropped Alabama to number 3.
What's it going to take at this point of the season for Bama to get back to number 1 for you in the power rankings? You've had them off the top spot for a number of weeks now. What's it going to take for Bama to impress you enough to put them back at number 1?
Well, in the near term, they're going to have to win at Tennessee, and I'm not so sure they can with a backup quarterback. Now, a lot of people think that Bryce Young's going to play. I'm not so sure, but even if he does, in that setting, haven't we kind of seen a recreation of that in week 2 at Texas where they got away with their lives? I still have questions about Alabama's secondary. The front was great on Saturday night against Texas A&M. The defense really came to play. But I think when you step up in class, when they did go on the road at Texas, which we now know is a pretty good team, an epically good team, I would venture to say, at Tennessee. It's the last time these two teams met undefeated was 1989. So I think it's going to be a big challenge no matter who plays quarterback. So if they win that game, then you got to put them at number 1 because it's 2 top 10 teams. But in the future, you got to judge them by margin, and that's what we've been doing with Georgia and Alabama so far. I've just got questions about both. Championship questions, not rank and file, championship questions. Alabama in the back, and then Georgia really defensively, even though they're not as good as last year.
As you mentioned, Alabama at Tennessee coming up this week, and it is a game that we will have on CBS. All right, in your Power Rankings article this week, you couched UCLA's leap into the top 8 as good things come to those who wait. And wait, as they are right now, what's the ceiling for this Bruins team?
Oh, I think it's pretty big. If you look at their schedule, Jeremy, there's a good chance they don't lose until they meet USC in late November. That's how it's playing out for them. And, in reference to that, what you just mentioned, Chip Kelly in his 5th year has finally turned it around. If we're going to a bowl, or tried to go to a bowl last year, it was canceled because of COVID. In the Holiday Bowl, he's got a quarterback, Dorial Thompson-Robinson, who right now may be number 2 in the Heisman race right behind C.J. Stroud. He's that kind of player and that kind of leader. He's in his 4th year, and it's a lot of maturation. Zach Charbonnet, the transfer from Michigan, is leading the Pac-12 in rushing. He had 200-something yards against Utah. The defense has stepped up, and you almost never knew Chip Kelly's teams with great defense. But now it's a complete package at UCLA. And you've got really this week, because of who they're playing, you got to talk about the emergence of West Coast football. It's probably not something that George Kliavkoff, the Pac-12 commissioner, wants to hear about because it's USC and UCLA.
Well, and UCLA take on Oregon next. That's coming up on the 22nd of October. We mentioned TCU sitting at number 10. What I didn't mention is that is a 9-place jump. They ended Kansas's unbeaten start. What's impressed you so much about the Horned Frogs?
Well, just the turnaround that Sonny Dykes has done. You know, somebody's got to call Gary Patterson pretty soon. He's an analyst at Texas, the former TCU coach, and just get his feeling on this. These are all his players. Max Duggan had been there for 3 or 4 years. Now until after Saturday, he was leading FBS in pass efficiency. And that, as you know, measures, touchdown passes versus interceptions versus completion percentage. Just means how efficient you are. And nobody's ever heard of this guy. He was a 200-meter champion out of Council Bluffs, Iowa. And then a couple of weeks ago, he starts outrunning the Oklahoma secondary to the end zone. And then he was the biggest reason they won. Well, the second biggest reason they won on Saturday at Kansas. There was a guy named Quentin Johnston. Remember that name? He came into that Kansas game with 12 catches this year. He went 14 for 206, including the game winner with 1:36 left. So I don't want to say nobody ever heard of this guy, but nobody ever heard of this guy. And that's the kind of player Max Duggan is. He's a leader at quarterback. He's got great feet. He's very, very fast. And the defense has come up big. Gary Patterson always had great defenses. So some of that must be shared. But Sonny Dykes, I think the case has to be made right now, is the best coach of the best team in Texas.
And we saw them there, second favorites to win the Big 12. CBS Sports senior college football writer Dennis Dodd, when he's not doing slick verbal promos with Josh Payton B-Mac, he's given us everything we need to know about the college football storylines. Thanks, Dennis. Great to see you. And, of course, for more on the latest storylines and plenty of discussion, you check out Dennis's Top 25. The power rankings available over on cbssports.com. As we take a look at 16 through 25. Notable here, Notre Dame back into the top 25 after that 0-2 start. They've won 3 in a row, not ranked, but here they are, back in the power rankings at 21. Certainly discussion of the power rankings and the AP poll top 25, and of course a big week 7 coming up. We've got the most ranked on ranked games this season coming up this week. Check out the Cover 3 podcast. Chip, Barrett, Tom, Danny, even Dennis, providing fantastic analysis multiple times a week. Download and follow the Cover 3 wherever you get your podcast audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.